One of the things I wanted to ask you guys, obviously the film has a strong political message, especially when it comes to the military. And this is one of the strong points of the movie to me. How do you guys see it holding up over time, like in our current environment that we live in? Isn't that message more important, maybe even more so now than it was when the movie was made? And just, I just want to see what you guys thought about that.
I think what's interesting about George's work overall is that his themes that he has found in each one of his films are universal in every film, and have something to say about whatever time period both that they were made in, but also now. So these universal themes are still very important and speak to each and every generation. Even though they're a little older, they're speaking to people in 2011 because they can recognize these topics and points of view in their daily life.
I'm waiting for Night Riders to
Have a
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, I am, because that was great.
Yeah, I thought I would be able to, just run on the tailcoats of Ed Harris. What the hell's going on?
No, it was fun.
Oh, he was great. That was his first.
That was the first feature.
Film. Yeah.
I mean, that movie too, I think, is extremely underrated because it's so not, but it's odd and extremely original.
It
so
was,
I think
yeah.
some people kind of miss it just because of that alone.
Yeah.
Well, that's another great point about George and his work. Everything he does is original.
Yeah.
You know, there is an originality to it. That's something that no one else has ever done before. So, and maybe that is a testament to his legacy and what he has accomplished over the years. Is an originality, a fresh idea, a new idea, and not ever trying to just. What am I trying to say?
Build a movie that is
based
special
on
effects, or
that's right. That's right.
You know,
He's never made a slasher film. You know what I mean? He's never made a film that just is going to appease the greatest number of the common denominator in terms of I'm doing this to make money. No, I think
things happen for a reason, no?
Right.
As opposed to just.
Right.
I also think that George had a lot more freedom in his earlier career as to his voice. I think that watching him as a friend, you know, as the bigger that genre became, and the more the studio people wanted to get involved, and there's always people with so many opinions, and he had to listen to them, and they would change his work, and I thought that was really hard to watch a friend go through that. You know, it's all about corporations anymore.
It is.
You know, and in that's a very political thing right now that's going on in our country. But you could see that here are these creative people that have the vision and the talent, and people that sometimes get into the film industry they have this glamorous idea. They may have the money to produce the thing, but they don't realize that they have to give that nod to the talent's vision and not wreck it.
Yep.
That's my
Yep.
little editorial.
There you go. It's a good.
Any more questions, guys?
Can you talk about working with Howard Sherman?
I can.
Yeah.
With what?
Howard.
I thought.
Oh, I love.
You know, it's funny because during my time working on the set, I don't think I ever spoke to Howard. I don't think I ever saw him other than when I was involved in a scene that he was in.
He wasn't into socializing.
Well, which is fine.
That's because he was in the makeup chair all the time.
Yeah, he was in the makeup chair continuously, but I watched a guy, I think he did one of the greatest pieces of acting I've ever seen an actor accomplish. Again, talk about originality. He created this character that kept growing and growing and growing. And I was just amazed as an actor watching him do it from the beginning. It was an amazing, amazing piece of work. His technique and his concentration and the simplicity with which he was able to accomplish the portrayal of that role, I just was in awe of.
It's up there with Karloff's.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah, because you
It
think he's
absolutely
like
is.
the Frankenstein of
Oh,
that
oh.
generation.
He transcended every bit of that makeup to create this humanness in this character.
He made
I
the makeup
agree.
live.
He's a
It
great-
absolutely,
Nice
absolutely up there with Karloff, and so yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
A great guy,
I
really
loved
nice
him.
man.
Yeah,
too.
liked him.
Very nice, gentle, and
Yeah, he's so.
very smart, kind man, talented.
I wanted to ask you guys, because he's one of the coolest characters in the movie, just curious, what was it like to work with the late Richard Liberty?
Aw, fun. You
Yeah.
can imagine, right?
Yeah.
He was great.
He was
He was a
funny.
lot
He
of
was
fun.
very
He was
funny
funny,
person.
and, you know, he had trouble with, sometimes with his lines, and it was great and funny, and, you know, he was so sweet about it. He was not a prima donna. He was just a really nice man.
Yeah.
Speaking of tough times, I don't remember the character, I think he was a crew member, that played that one zombie, that his head was back, but it was just the brain. And you know that zombie? That was grueling. He was in that scene, so I watched, he is on this gurney, and he had to put his head back like that for a long time while they were building that, you know, the fake head brain thing. That was intense. That was an intense scene. When I think of Richard, I think of that scene, because he was the mad scientist.
Right,
It was a
right,
fun
right.
scene. It was a complicated scene
Right.
to shoot, and it took a long time, but it was a great scene. I mean, I liked his work in that. He was,
Richard was a delightful
I'm
man.
sad that
yeah.
he,
Yeah.
he's the one that called and said, hey, Lori, I'm doing these convention things, you know? And, yeah, he said, there's this thing, you know, there's this thing called conventions where, and, you know, and then he passed away shortly after that, but he would have enjoyed doing this.
I
He
think so,
enjoyed it,
yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions, guys?
Going back to the special effects, I don't expect any of you to be like gore hounds or anything like that, but have you seen a movie like that's anything like Day of the Dead in terms of like the makeup, like the impact of the makeup and how like the flesh stretches and stuff like that? Is there anything that you think compares, whether it be a zombie movie or any horror film?
The remake of Dawn of the Dead, or Day of the Dead.
Did you see it?
I'm kidding.
There's zombies
was
crawling on ceilings.
Just
Yeah.
the worst. Or,
Yeah.
hate, yeah, I'm not,
I like Mena Savar. I think she's a great actress, really. But
But
I
that
didn't
movie
have
was, like,
the
pointless.
yeah, I didn't have the privilege, I didn't get to see it yet, but it's supposed to be nothing to do with Day of the Dead. I mean, it's supposed to be, they took the name I hear, and that's about it.
That's pretty much it.
But
It
I
was-
like her as an actress. I think she's terrific. That's a good question. Like, I don't know, any gory movies that you saw that,
No,
special effects
No,
things?
the only, you know what I saw recently was just clips. I have not seen the movie, but Rick Baker's work on the recent Wolfman.
Right,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
right.
I mean,
That-
and-
But that's so different.
But a
That's-
lot of that too, though, is Rick Baker and doing his hands-on thing, but a lot of that also is CGI, which
Yeah.
they're able to manipulate camera work and things with. But
When did that come in? I mean,
That's
when
a
did they start
great
doing that? Because I
movie.
know '85 was when we
That's
did.
great.
It's,
They-
it's
when did
probably-
they-
it's around that time.
Around that time, so this may, Day of the Dead could have been one of the last really all authentic,
it was one of the
CGI
last-
has certainly helped in terms of making special effects on film a lot easier. But
After
it's
that.
nice to see, you know, we're old folks here, so we come from
the caveman.
actually having, and maybe before, yeah. Having people actually having to sit in a chair and to change bits and pieces as the thing changes and grows, and having actual individuals working with you, you know, creating these creatures.
I think, you know, I'm an artist in a different way. I do installation art, but photography is my main medium. And the example for me is like, I always felt like my talent was in my hands. So when I would develop my own stuff and I would paint it and do sculpture, you know, it's a completely different. When we switched over to, you know, the digital age, which is, you know, people are artists, wonderful artists in that, but for me it was a hard transition because I needed to feel it, you know. My talent was in my guts, you know. No pun intended.
Well, it's probably almost like a CD vinyl argument. You know,
Right.
but like the scene that
Sure.
always got me was the very beginning scene, your dream sequence scene. And I was curious, like, was that a one shot of all the hands coming through the wall? 'Cause nowadays they probably would just do that with CGI. But I'm imagining they had a bunch of people. I mean,
They did. My husband wanted them.
were they able to do that one try, or?
Well, we actually, when we were recently at the mine, they still have the wall that they utilized for, that they built for those hands to come through. Do you remember us
Oh, yeah.
seeing that when we were coming through? I mean, that wall is still in the mine that they created for that particular
But, yeah,
shot.
but
I'm
there's a
sorry
fun,
to
no,
interrupt.
that's okay, no, you're not. I mean, it's a funny story because when we first shot the scene, they had built this wall. When I'm in there, at the first scene where I go up to the counter, that's a real concrete wall, okay? Then they took us aside and they built this styrofoam kind of wall with little paper mache places for the actors to put their hands in. But what happened was the first take, which is like, we're going to get like the arm chop, but this was a big setup, and all the people behind are there. My husband is one of the hands. He always says he was protecting my breasts, you know. But everybody pushed, and the force of it made the wall come apart. The whole thing came on. I'd like to see those clips, you know. But they had to rebuild the wall and do it again and really anchor it.
That scared me.
Were you there?
Oh, it's just a great way to
Oh,
begin a movie
no.
because you're
No, that's
immediately
good.
off
That's
kilter.
really
Tremendous
good,
shot.
That's
Yeah.
a great shot. That was really, scared me, doing it.
I have a question for you, Lori, and obviously for you too, Tim. You guys were both at the Florida location that we see at the beginning of the movie. Just how was that as an experience? Was that, I mean, it had to be completely different from being in the mine, but was it
Great relief.
hard to shoot any of that stuff, or was that fairly simple compared to the stuff in the mines?
Different problems, I mean, makeup melting kind of problems as opposed to freezing.
Oh, right.
But,
And skin problems, you know,
yeah.
because I kept getting darker and darker.
It was, no, it was such a pleasure. I mean, it was like a 3-month shoot for me. That's a long time to shoot a movie. And no, we were just relieved. My daughter took her first steps there. She was just a little baby then, and George's daughter was the same age, Christina. And Tim was there when Katie took her
I
first steps.
remember.
Yeah, my daughter's an actress now. Kate Rogel is her name. She's working on it too.
Where in Florida was that? I'm curious.
Fort Myers and Sanibel Island.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
Sanibel was where we did the beach stuff.
Alright. Which is
Beautiful, because George had a place down there.
Oh, okay.
George had a home.
All right.
Most of it was done there on Saturday.
Was it all? Well, we did Fort Myers with the opening scene with the zombies. That was Fort Myers. We were staying in Fort Myers.
What's it?
Hello, is anybody there? That one.
Oh, right,
That town,
That was-
the alligator, that was Fort Myers.
yeah.
But you know what, the thing, I think it's interesting that the shot of when Tim is on that elevator and goes down into the top, down, we actually shot when it went, that was just a tarp that was drawn on a piece of, plywood, and where the zombies were corralled outside. And we actually shot that, they built that set because it was shot at a missile silo outside Monroeville. And it's an abandoned
Right.
missile silo, but, so the real elevator, we shot, it was, when you were talking about rough conditions, it was like 15 degrees or something the day we shot that. It was a beautiful blue sky, and we shot that way early on before, I think we even maybe went to the caves, but, so as we're going down, that was shot in Pittsburgh at the missile silo, but the top of it was shot in Florida. And so all those zombies were different, even though there were zombies that stood out, you know? There were 2 actors playing, one actor in Pittsburgh, one actor, and they had to match all that up. My brother being one of them.
Oh, yeah?
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, they did, for me, I was like shirtless, and had my arms out
But that was outside in the warm weather.
when I came down.
Oh,
But
right.
I mean, when I went up.
Oh,
but
that's
not,
right, you were freezing then. Oh,
Well,
that was
yeah,
a
it was
terrible. It was around Halloween, because my brother
was
kept the
freezing.
makeup on to go to a Halloween party. Little did he know, he couldn't get it off the next day, and I was frantically calling Tom, how do we get this makeup off? We were thinking like, nail polish remover.
on his face.
Anyone else?
Yeah, and like in the early '80s, like Ebert and or Siskel and Ebert, they used to bash all the slashers and all that. And you mentioned that you had like a non-typical, interesting female role. Did they give your or
No.
did they give the movie any press?
They
No?
didn't like it.
They didn't even like it.
No, see, Dawn of the Dead was such a huge success.
Okay.
That day was such a disappointment. He didn't even like the acting, which I felt bad about.
Oh, we
But,
were ripped as
yeah,
shit.
but you know, it's funny, well, but anyway, that's another story. But everybody has opinions, and I appreciate them, but not that one. But yeah, he did not like it. But honestly, Day of the Dead was such a big success that the fans wanted something different than Day of the Dead. That's why it stands the test of time. Dawn of the Dead, I mean, was such a big hit. That when Day came out, it was character-driven. You know, the gore was more toward the end, but it was a gore fest, and they didn't like all the talkiness. And no, they didn't like it.
They didn't even like criticize the quality.
They
of the
criticized
movie.
it, they didn't like it. Yeah, you could look it up online and put his name in, and yeah. We got a pretty good review in the New York Times, not bad.
Anybody else? No? Okay, well, I have another question. I don't know if any of you guys know about this, but currently, right now, as we speak, John and Lori, and I believe Tim, are
Movie.
kind of doing a new project that's sort of related to Day of the Dead and the fact that it's being shot at the mines. The movie's called The Three. And from the moment that I've heard anything about this, I can't really explain why, I just have a feeling that this is a really special project. The director's name's Scott Goldberg. He's a very talented guy from New York City. And I got to witness both John and Lori working on set that day. I give you guys a lot of credit as actors. But just, could you explain what it's like going back there and working on a completely different project, but it's in a, I guess, somewhat of a familiar environment for you guys?
Well, I think you probably,
I know.
yeah,
Okay, I feel like I'm talking.
You take this
too
question.
much. Okay, well, Scott is
well, this
a.
is Women in Cinema week.
Oh, okay, then
Mine.
you're not supposed to talk now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is he really? No, she's on Scream Queens.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
Scott has a beautiful sense of cinematography, and he is like a young, you know, when George just had a camera and he went out and did his thing. And I love the fact that, I think, and we were talking about this on, I think your website, about how you can make a movie any way now. I mean, that's what's so great. All people that are creative can just take an iPhone and start shooting things. And I think that's such a, it's really the artists having a voice and doing their thing. You don't need much. And Scott has had this vision, and he's done a couple of teasers to other films. He hasn't done a full-length feature yet, but I know he'd been asking me for a couple of years if I would do this for him. And finally, you know, I thought, yeah, I'll help this kid out, you know, because I think his vision is beautiful, and I like his cinematography. So it's basically, it's a kind of a short film that he's using to try to raise money for a feature. And we're really, John and I and Tim are helping him out by doing that.
I think he finally got you because he hooked me,
Mhm.
and then Yeah, it's an investor's teaser.
Yeah, so it's not really.
Is what it is, and it's, I think it's about an idea he has, which is an interesting idea.
Very.
Which is to, and I don't want to give too much away, but, you know, because things change. But he has this thought about a way to stop us humans from waging war against one another is to create an android, if you will, human look-alike, human behavior, human thought process, and send these robots into war, saving the human race for itself, I think is the main purpose here, the main idea here.
And more married. And the thing about it is that it's a nod to George, no doubt, because we did it in the cave, which looks nothing like it did when we were there. It used to have like acres and acres of lakes in there. They drained the lakes and it's built up inside. But I know that for myself, I kind of made Sarah look like, the character look like Sarah kind of did, even though I'm like 30 years older. But what I mean is the nod to her wearing the scientist coat and the long hair, and
Right.
you know, it's kind of in the cave is the.
And my character is kind of a throwback to Richard Liberty's role in Day, and we call him, his last name is Fisher, so, which was Ted Fisher, my name in Day of the Dead, Ted Fisher. So we're trying to do a little bit of a nod back to the Day.
Mm-hmm. And Scott's a really nice kid, and he has a great passion. It's his passion.
And he's a good cinematographer,
Mhm.
by the way.
Yeah.
He's an excellent cinematographer.
I think he has a good career ahead of him.
And if any of you guys
Now
are
we just need
interested-
him to get him to write a script.
If any of you guys are interested, you could go to, it's called the3film.com. It's all letters, it's no numbers or anything like that. Check it out, it's something really interesting, and to be honest with you, a lot of times, like how we talk about George Romero being an independent filmmaker, it's getting less and less as the days go by as far as that goes. So to see very cool people working with an extremely talented independent filmmaker, that's a special project to me already. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. I know you guys will like it, you will enjoy what the ideas are, and you know, the movie's not made yet. He's, like they said, he's just working on the teaser.
You know
But-
what, Ed, I think there are a lot of people making films out there.
I think so too.
You know, there's more access because of the internet. And there's different ways of making movies, like I said, you can make a movie from your iPhone.
Yeah.
And that's what I encourage people
Absolutely.
with passion to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, even a lot of the independents that are out there now are becoming more and more mainstream all the time. But independent is the way to go. I mean,
For
you
your
know,
art, for your
Yeah,
vision.
yeah. I mean, you can't necessarily live on art, but boy, it sure does feed your soul. And if you can get your soul fed, you know, maybe you can figure out a way to eat afterwards.
Macaroni and cheese.
Yeah. But getting your soul fed is important.
And one thing I wanted to tell you guys too is, I think it's extremely cool that people like yourselves who've worked in film and worked in the industry will go and help somebody like that out. Like, you guys see the importance behind it. And I think that that's incredible. And as a fan of this stuff, like most of us are, we all appreciate the work like that.
Oh, well,
So,
Thanks so
appreciate it
much,
too.
Ed.
absolutely.
It's really, well, it's my pleasure. I love it because I love to work with young people and people with visions, and art in general is such a powerful medium. Any medium is powerful. To me, I love artists. What can
I do
say?
too. I mean, I work with them on a regular basis. I teach acting and directing at Point Park, and we own and operate the Pittsburgh Playhouse. We have a BFA program with young actors going out into the business every day, and there's nothing like watching them grow and become professionals. And so, yeah, it's
It's all about, for me, it's all about giving back at this point in my life.
me too.
It's really,
And I have a question for you guys. You all currently live in do you live in Pittsburgh still?
I also I have a place in New York. My husband and I have a place.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask you guys is, I don't know how many people here have been paying attention to it, but there's been a lot of recent news about the possible doing away with the Pittsburgh tax credit for film.
Yeah.
And I was just
Yeah.
curious what you guys thought about that.
Oh, it's
That's
terrible,
awful.
awful. A lot
I
of
mean,
great films are
if
made
we lose
here.
it, we're gonna miss out, and a lot of people are gonna miss out on work.
Mhm.
And it's not just about actors, it's about IATSE guys and,
Right.
We have great
not
crew
being
guys here,
We have tremendous crew guys here.
and George kind
And-
of started that.
Yeah, absolutely, I mean, and.
It's devastating, I mean, it's devastating, I don't know if they realize, it's not just let's make movies in Pittsburgh.
Financially.
It's huge,
Yeah, I mean,
huge.
it's a boon to the
Industry.
city if they can bring these filmmakers in. Because, you know, you're making $2, $3, $4 million on every movie that comes into town. And that goes into the coffers of the city. And to lose out on that opportunity is just insane. I mean, it feeds the restaurant workers, it feeds the hotel people, it feeds the technicians. You know, there's a trickle down here, and it's a large commerce that they're missing out on if we lose the tax incentive.
Yeah,
So just to let you guys know too, if.
vote, call the.
Yes. Let your
Yeah,
voice be
call.
heard about it, because it is important for, especially if you're from the city
Call the
or
governor.
the roundaway parts,
The
so.
senators and governors.
Yeah.
Find out
Call, you
Tuesday.
could just make a phone call, I called, I left out my
Now,
Tuesday.
Rendell understood it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Corbett does.
yeah, I'll see.
Any other final questions? Nope.
I was just gonna add one, just an information thing, when you talk about independent filmmakers, I think zombie genre is one that has really just created so much interest in independent film. A couple of years ago, I ran across one, I don't know how many people have seen it, there was this 10-year-old girl down in Texas,
Oh, right.
made this film called Pathogen, which is actually not bad.
Yeah.
It's and her mom was holding the boom on a
Right.
mop, and it's incredible, but there was like a whole 2-hour documentary about the making of the film, and then I bought it,
I
and
heard
so
about
she was supposedly working on another film, but
I heard about it.
that's why I'm like,
yeah.
go to the website, buy the film, support
Yeah,
them,
support
you know.
it, yeah.
Yeah, because you know what, to be honest with you, when it comes to big Hollywood, they'll take your money or leave it. They have a business model going. Everybody that's independent, believe me, when you go and you put down your money, they appreciate your dollars. Even if
Right.
it's just a few dollars,
Right.
it goes right back into their pockets and right back into their projects. And that pays off for everybody in the end. So I'd like to thank you guys. Let's hear it, guys.